Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Minecraft Disney. This week we're going to be taking a look at a much requested attraction. It is in Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom and it is Splash Mountain. Now Splash Mountain has become one of the iconic mountains. There's Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain, Railroad, and it's sort of got an interesting history because it calls upon elements that I think are not very popular in Disney culture and has some sort of interesting paths that lead up to what it became that I don't think a lot of people might know about. So Splash Mountain, if you've never been on it, is a play on the classic log flume ride. It exists in multiple Disneys, including Disneyland and Disney World, and I believe Tokyo Disney as well. It was conceived, it's not an original Disney ride, it was actually thought of in 1983 by an Imagineer named Tony Baxter. He was stuck in rush hour traffic on his way to work and he was trying to think of ways to sort of add more attendance to what was at the time called Bear Country. And before that, Dick Nunis, who was a big player at Disney, had insisted that they create a log flume for Disneyland, but the Imagineers really didn't like the idea. They thought that log flumes were very plain and ordinary for a theme park, and it was below Disneyland. But Tony Baxter sort of at that point thought of including characters from an attraction called America Sings, and then started thinking about using songs and characters and plot lines from the 1946 Disney film called Song of the South. Song of the South is actually in itself considered somewhat of a controversial film because of how it depicts characters, different races. It wasn't the most politically correct film back then, although I think it's one of those movies that has created sort of a lore behind it that has overpowered actual fact. For instance, if you watch the movie, which is hard to do because Disney doesn't provide it anymore, I don't think it was as politically incorrect as the legend has sort of created it to be. But either way, neither here or there, the idea was that they would take these characters like Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and put them in this log flume ride and sort of create a new attraction, a big ticket attraction that would sort of increase attendance in the area. And that's essentially what they did. At the time, it was the most expensive project by Walt Disney Imagineering. It cost them $75 million for this one ride. And what's interesting about it, and I don't think a lot of people understand this or know this, is that it was originally called Zip-a-Dee River Run, which was a play off of the song Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah, which was from Song of the South. But it was renamed at the insistence of Michael Eisner, who at that point just became CEO. And now this is the strange part. So the Imagineers wanted another mountain. However, what Eisner wanted to do was start this concept of cross-promotion, and so he wanted to name it after this new film that Disney was producing called Splash, with Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, about a mermaid who comes onto land and runs into Tom Hanks, and they fall in love, and has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the ride, but he wanted to use the name to cross-promote the movie and the ride at the same time. And so there was this sort of settlement, and rather than naming the ride Splash, it was named Splash Mountain. And it's just bizarre to think that what has now become probably one of the more iconic rides at Walt Disney World was named after this mid-80s movie that has nothing to do with the ride whatsoever. And I don't think a lot of people know that for that very reason. It was almost like a instance of failed cross-promotion, yet at the same time we're lucky enough to get stuck with a name that really worked ultimately. So you go up this log flume. If you've ever been on a log flume, you sort of know how it goes. And you ultimately will drop down this 52-foot drop at a 45-degree angle. And it goes about 40 miles an hour. And yet Disney, again, uses a lot of visual tricks and a lot of build-up to sort of create a more extreme experience than you're actually getting. Other attractions that come to mind are Space Mountain, which feels faster than it really is because it's in the dark. And using tricks like that to create sort of extreme experiences that can still be experienced by people who might not be able to go on the most intense roller coasters, for instance. And it sort of pushes further that ideal that Walt wanted, which is that Disney World and Disneyland would become parks that anybody could go to and anybody can enjoy of any age. So that's just a quick look at Splash Mountain. It's a very popular ride. It's one that I don't really have to recommend because if you're in Disney World, the odds are you're going to take the time to go ride it. You will probably get wet if you're sitting in the front few rows, but that's sort of the fun in a log flume ride. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you have a fantastic week. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it. And I hope to see you all here next week when we pick another attraction at Walt Disney World and explore its history on Minecraft Disney World. Bye, everyone.